And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth, and a great day to look at a great and alarming report about one of our leading public universities, the University of California, San Diego. And the report involves the lack of preparedness for mathematics by a lot of the people who were accepted and who pursue their education at UCSD. UCSD was recently ranked among the top 6 public universities in this country by U.S. News and World Report, and it always gets high remarks. And also, I should mention that 2 of my brothers are alumni of the University of California at San Diego. And meanwhile, Megan McArdle is a Washington Post columnist. She is the author of the best-selling book, The Upside of Down: Why Failing Well is the Key to Success. And she has a new column at the Washington Post where she talks about a UC San Diego report saying that incoming students are not ready for college. What's the indication, Megan, in this report that the students today are not prepared for this outstanding university?
Well, it's pretty shocking. So in 2016, UCSD basically created a remedial math program to help students who hadn't maybe gotten the finer points of algebra and pre-calculus and who wanted to major in something that requires calculus, like psychology or biology, to help get them up to speed. But during the pandemic, what they realized was that they were increasingly seeing, first of all, a huge number of the number was growing hugely of the students who needed remediation. And in 2020, it was like 30 students. By 2025, it was 900. And more worryingly, that those students didn't just need a little help with algebra. These were students who were struggling with things like adding and multiplying fractions, with using negative numbers, with doing very, very simple algebraic work that they should have had in elementary or middle school. 60% of the kids got the question who ended up in the worst remedial sections, which had 600 kids total. 60% of those kids could not round the number 374,518 to the nearest hundred. And so, yeah, this is really, really, really basic stuff that they should have gotten in like 3rd grade, 5th grade. Certainly not in their college education.
The university deserves credit for at least uncovering this situation and taking some action to remediate it. But who is responsible for the lack of preparation? Is that something that is a national problem?
It is a national problem. It seems to be somewhat worse in California. In general, blue states, because they shut down for longer during the pandemic, experienced more pandemic learning loss, and that is certainly a contributor here. Another contributor is that the schools themselves have had rampant grade inflation. They have been de-emphasizing, they've been using reading curricula and math curricula that do not work as well as traditional kind of phonics heavy, very basics, drilling heavy math and reading instructions. And of course, if kids don't have that foundation, they get further and further behind as they go through school. And then the last thing is that the UC system in 2020, as many schools did during the pandemic, said we're not going to ask for SATs because, of course, they were worried about kids not being able to take the test because because of the virus. But unlike a lot of those schools, the UC system kept going with not requiring standardized tests. And so while UCSD is probably the worst of the schools for this problem in the UC system, because they've made a very aggressive effort to recruit at lower income disadvantaged schools, all of the UC schools seem to be seeing the same problem of kids who have the most shocking statistic in this report was that of these kids in the lowest level remedial math class, again, getting remediation in grade school math, not only had most of them taken a higher math class like statistics or calculus, Um, 25% of them had a 4.0 GPA in math, and the average GPA in math was 3.65. So these kids were clearly getting good grades in classes they demonstrably did not have the understanding to actually pass. And that problem of both the grade inflation's happening on the school side, but then the universities have basically taken out the check mechanism that would have told them it was happening earlier.
Do the universities generally, and not just UCSD, but universities across the country need to go back to requiring the SAT, Scholastic Aptitude Test, or
Absolutely.
a comparable mechanism? Why is that so
Yeah, it's
important?
SAT or ACT. SAT, when you and I were in school, was the dominant test, but the ACT has
Yep.
become much more common among younger people. Yes, you need the standardized tests because if you don't have them, grades vary wildly between schools, partly because teachers grade to the general level of the school, and more affluent districts are going to have better prepared kids usually. And so an A from those districts doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as an A where the teacher is excited that you can do basic algebra. But also because the incentives for teachers, if you don't have the standardized test there, the incentives for teachers is to give everyone good grades, right?
Well,
Because uh,
there's also this problem. I mean, right now we have what, close to 2/3 of the students at four-year colleges and universities are female, and girls get better grades. And
they
I
do.
mean, I think there's studies that have shown that to be true, uh, pretty much across the country, no?
Yes, girls tend to mature a little earlier. They tend to be more conscientious. They are better at sitting still and doing their homework than boys are. This is an average. I was not particularly good at sitting still and doing my homework, so I was in confession time. But on average, yes, girls tend to have better grades. They tend to, boys tend to be overrepresented at the very top of math performance. It's less, the distinction is less strong in verbal. And one of the things that was happening was that schools, one of the reasons that schools were pushing to remove the SAT was that it was seen as a barrier to diversifying their classes. And that was especially true after the Students for Fair Admission case, which was a 2023 Supreme Court case that basically made affirmative action illegal. And after that, schools are looking around and saying, okay, well, how do I make my classes more representative? One easy way to do that is to get rid of the tests, because then you can't see any disparity. And there are disparities between various groups on these tests. But of course, the answer to that is not to remove the message, the signal that is telling you that that's happening. The answer is to remediate the deficits where the deficits really need to be fixed, which is in the grammar schools. It is in the school districts when they're little kids. It is not when they get to college.
And what else needs to be done in quickly, in a word?
I mean, look, I think the most important thing is if you look at what's happening with the Mississippi Miracle right now, where Mississippi, a state that was historically like 49th, 50th in education, has been racing ahead at getting its fourth graders reading at or above grade level. How do they do it? Phonics, accountability, and teacher training. And that is the message that we need to carry out to the school districts who are seeing these problems with pandemic learning loss and phones and all the rest of it. You got to do the hard work of getting the kids up to where they should be. Do not try to take away the information after you have failed.
Megan McArdle, her column is posted at our website at michaelmedved.com. Megan, always a pleasure having you on the show, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thanks so
We
much
will
for having
be
me, and a wonderful Thanksgiving to you too.
appreciated.